Today's class, we're actually only going to run this morning session class. This afternoon session, we're not going to run. What's going to happen is that, again, there's going to be a lot of advanced training that's going to be taking place starting March 17th. So what I was thinking about doing, for those of you that can make it, I know Andrea has spoken with you already, but March 17th is going to be a really good time to actually sit there and attend the class, just because of the fact that, one, we're going to have some virtual servers that are implemented, and we're all going to be able to go through a case study. And in addition, there's also going to be some Microsoft certified trainers on hand with respect to Excel, as well as the developers of the program that can take you through some really advanced stuff. So again, I'm going to make sure that everybody gets an invite to that meeting on March 17th. There's going to be a lot of meetings again starting March 17th. It's going to be a big push here for the ACPAC intelligence training. And again, starting March 17th, we're going to be having training every couple of weeks. Andrea, I know I've spoken with you already. There's some attendees that were here yesterday that are not here today. Again, they'd rather attend the 17th one, and I think what I was talking about started to go a little bit over their head, and they wanted to play with them a little bit. So they're not going to be joining us this morning. But then again, they're going to be I'll be there on the 17th. Dennis, were you able to make the 17th class?
You are no longer muted.
Yes, I'll be there.
All right, excellent. And Jason, you as well?
Yeah, that sounds good. If you want to send me the invite, Ian.
All right, sure. I'll send you the invite. Just getting the new systems implemented here, so I'll probably send the invites probably about a week before the start of the class, using the new system. Okay, so again, this is yeah.
You are now muted.
Basically, what you're going to be doing is you'll become a little bit more familiar with Sage ACPAC intelligence. We'll quickly review some of the stuff that we went over yesterday. In fact, I'll dwell down deeper into some of the stuff that we did cover yesterday. There were some questions, and I think I have better answers to those questions now. So I will have a look at doing that. So yesterday, again, we looked at the report manager. We spent quite a bit of time talking about the report manager, its interface, how to use it, and how to get the appropriate information out of the reports, out of the database and into Microsoft Excel. We also spent considerable time talking about the connector component. Yesterday we talked about licensing, deployment, and installation. It doesn't seem to be a very popular topic. It is important that you understand how the licensing works, though the licensing isn't really all that complex. Maybe I'll quiz you about that here in just a moment. And we also spent a bit of time talking about how to arrange the data and present it nicely in Microsoft Excel. Today I want you to become even more familiar with the SAI product. Today what we're going to do, after we go over the quick review, is I'm going to show you how to import and export SAI reports, what happens in the background. Again, it's not really all that difficult. I'm going to show you how to run consolidation reports. I'm going to show you how to create reports from disparate data sources, basically from different data sources where those data sources might not necessarily, the data in those databases might not necessarily be the same. I'm going to show you how to use the pick lists function to consolidate information, and I'm going to show you a little bit more advanced information with respect to setting up databases in the connector. So let's get out of these PowerPoints, and what I'm immediately going to do here is I'm going to start sharing my desktop. So I've sent everybody a copy of the Sage ACPAC Intelligence Expression Listing. Not sure if everyone had a chance to review the document, but I did send a copy of it out to everyone. I think I've sent a copy of some people didn't get the course reference guides, and I think I've sent a copy out to everyone as well. Jason, I might not have sent you a copy. I think I forgot about you, but I'll make sure that you get a copy by the end of class here today. In the email that I sent, I also sent everyone a copy of the financial reports B. So basically the report that I was using yesterday, I've actually exported it, and I sent you all a copy. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to open it up. But again, this is the exact same report that I was working with yesterday. Just so you can have an idea of what it does. If you want, you can even open it up on your computer here right now. All right, hopefully we're all seeing a big black blob again. Again, we all had a look at this report yesterday, and I sent you a copy of this report here via email. So this is a basic Excel report. It's specifically the financial reports D drill down report. And I asked you a question. I basically asked you how many transactions were recorded against a specific account. And again, the whole point of this exercise is just so that you understand how, you understand the functionality and the features this particular report has. And of course, the financial reports D gives you the ability to drill down into a report. So I can drill down into this report. You can send it to a client. They don't have to have ACPAC installed. They don't have to have the intelligence product installed. They'll be able to perform the drill down. Again, how do I do it? Again, I'm using Microsoft Excel version 2007 here. So what I can do is I can go to any of these reports. Again, I'm going to make sure that I group the quarters. What I can do here is I can click on the add-ins button. Active content has been disabled. And one of the things that I can do here is, I'm not sure why this is, the actual tool that I need is not showing up on here right now. So macros and active controls have been disabled. That's a problem with using different virtual machines. So what I'm going to do here, before I do this, because this isn't going to work, is I'm actually going to go into my Excel program. Actually, I'm already here. I'm going to go to Excel options. Under Excel options, I'm going to click on the Trust Center button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Trust Center settings, and I want to make sure that my macro settings are enabled, because obviously this isn't going to work without my macros being enabled. So enable all macros is now selected, and I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to click on OK once more, and I'm going to exit out of ACPAC, or sorry, out of Excel, and bring it back into it. Okay, so when I click on the add-ins button, I'm going to have my custom toolbars here. Then you'll notice that there are report tools here. This drill down, this particular drill down function isn't going to work for this specific report. But when I run my copy of financial reports D, I do have some custom drill down that is available to me for the financial reports D report. So again, what I can do is I can highlight any of my account numbers. I ask you specifically to look at 4010-100-10. If you want, you can even try firing it up on a machine that doesn't have Microsoft Excel. And what I can do is I can click on Change Month. When I click on Change Month, you'll notice that it is possible for me to click on the drop-down box, and I can choose the month that I wish to perform the appropriate drill down. And I think I sent an email March 20th. Actually, just March. That's what I want. And what I can actually do is I can click on Drill Down Account. When I click on this Drill Down Account button, you'll notice that it actually brings up the relevant transactions that I'm looking to drill down to. And again, this is possible for me to do. I don't have to have the ACPAC program installed. I don't have to have any of the SAI components installed. I can actually email this document out to a client or to some of my colleagues, and it's possible for me to perform the appropriate drill down. So again, all of this data is already contained within Microsoft Excel. It's important to know that. And it's not like the Financial Reporter program. I can't actually drill down to the source transaction like I could if I was using the FR program. But still, I think it's nice to have the functionality to be able to actually look at some of the financial data and drill down to some of that financial data without having to have the ACPAC programs installed. So So again, this is the statement, just some limitations with respect to this. Obviously, if I click on the income statement tab, or I'm sorry, the menu tab, I might want to hide this. If I don't have the appropriate components installed on the computer, I won't be able to run a different income statement, for example. I'm going to get a message stating that the appropriate SAI components have not been installed. Are there any questions on the financial reports D income statement? They're mute. Don't forget to take yourself off of me by pressing #6. All right, no questions. And again, there's a chat window there, so don't hesitate to use the chat button if you feel a little bit shy. I know that nobody's shy here, but okay, so what I want to do is I want to fire up my ACPAC again. So again, when we start up ACPAC, and if you launch SI through the ACPAC interface, we know that it does use one LANPAC. License-wise, we know that this user, there's a user on my system called admin. This user is using the ACPAC Intelligence program from a workstation called Delia 0107. If this user just shuts down the ACPAC system and then goes to another computer on the network, will they be able to use the ACPAC Intelligence program without any sort of intervention? And you should all state immediately that the answer is no. It's not possible for you to do that. Why? Well, they have to go into the license administrator and they actually have to reset the license. You should know that for the exam. Unless you want me to show that to you, I'm not going to bother doing that here. Another question that might come up is that, okay, right now I know that the admin user is allowed to use I have a license to use this product on this computer called Delia 0107. How many ACPAC databases can I actually have open? Is it just one, or is it two, or is it three? And again, so long as that user is accessing this ACPAC Intelligence from this workstation, it's actually possible for me to open up an unlimited number of databases that use ACPAC Intelligence, so long as it's being used from this workstation. So yesterday we got pretty much to the core of things. Hopefully everybody, by the time they left class yesterday, had a pretty good idea about what is needed to run a report or to create reports. So with respect to actually new report creation, I'm probably not going to talk about that here today, but what I want to do is actually I want to run through again some of the things that we might have missed yesterday.
Hey, Ian?
Yes, go ahead.
And you don't have to answer it right now, but if you wouldn't mind covering, after class yesterday, I tried to recreate on my machine where you did the AR customer and then you had the transactions and the drill down, and I went through all the steps I thought we'd gone through in class, and I can't get the drill down to work. And if you don't...
All right, no problem. As a matter of fact, let's cover that first thing here this morning then. Okay. We can use that in our example.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, so as a matter of fact, that's going to be the basis for the example here. What we're going to try to do, what do we want to do? We want to see a customer list. What else do we want to do? We want to be able to drill down into their open transactions. Where do we start? Well, we know that the very first place that we're going to start is the connector component. We want to make sure that the appropriate data is defined such that the report manager can pull the appropriate data from the connector. So I want to go into my SAI program group. I'm going to select, first of all, my connector component. And again, normally what has to happen is that before a user can use the connector component, they first of all have to purchase it, because the SAI, the free SAI, does not come with the connector component. So again, to quickly recap, this is the connector UI here. I'm going to double click on Sage ACPAC to see my list of database drivers. I'm interested in looking at my ODBC driver for SQL Server. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to pretend that there are no drivers here right now, or there are no connections, sorry. So with respect to the connector has two functions. The first function is to create a connection to the database, and the second function is to create the containers. Step number one, create a connection to the database. I'm going to create a brand new connection to the database. I'm going to right-click on ODBC SQL Server, and I'm going to select Add Connection. That's normally the fastest way you can get this going. Connection name, I need to specify a name for this connection. So give it a descriptive connection name. Server, I can specify the server here. I'm going to talk about other options later on if our servers keep changing, or if we need to be able to force the user to specify the server. I'll show that to you later on. So right now the server name is W0107. I am using an instance name, so don't forget to specify the instance name here. Database name, I'm going to key in the database name here. I'm going to hard code it in this case. What is the user ID? I'm going to specify the appropriate user ID here. And again, I can get away from that, having to specify this information by clicking on Use the Auto Connection System. But I'm not going to do that in this case. I'm going to click on Add. So as soon as I click on Add, the very first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to see my connection called Server 1 being added. The very first thing that I want to do after adding the connection is I want to test the connection. So I'm going to right-click on Server Name. I'm going to select Check Test. And I get this message. Connection succeeded. When you create the connection initially, it doesn't try to authenticate. So when you do this check, it sends the user ID and password to SQL Server and then sees if you can connect to the database. So you actually have to do that check test first. Okay, so I have a new connection, Server 1. The next step is to add container. Maybe I want to add containers. Doesn't matter. But I do have to add at least one container before I can start querying the database through this connection. Create a container. I'm going to right-click on Server 1, and then I'm going to select Add Data Containers. Okay, so I can choose to use a table. I can use a SQL join, view, graphical join, stored procedure, or I can do a SQL query. Most people will probably be using graphical joins, so again, I'm going to click on graphical join here, and I'm going to click on OK. And I have to specify a name for this container. So I'm going to put in a descriptive name. So again, nothing new here. We all know how to do this part. Because I'm using a graphical join, I do have to click on customers, and I have to specify which tables I'm adding to my container. I'm going to do that by clicking on Graphical Join Tool. Did everybody have a chance to play with this yesterday? I know that Andrea has. Did anybody else have a chance to play with it? Dennis?
You are no longer muted.
No, actually I didn't.
If you guys can, what I want you to do is play with it as much as you can before the 17th. Any concerns, questions, or problems that you might run into, I want you to tell your issue, and I want you to send the issue to either myself or Randy. That way we can get the most of the call that's going to be happening on the 17th. Okay, so what are we going to be doing here? We're going to be selecting a couple of tables. ARBL and ARCut.
You are now muted.
Those tables are usually a lot easier to do, a lot quicker to do than this method, but most people use this method here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I had problems yesterday for whatever reason. I couldn't drag these windows around. It's not easy. Sounds a little bit hokey, but that's okay. What am I trying to do? I need to create the appropriate link. So I'm going to link IDCust to IDCust here. We know how to change the join type, so I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm going to click on Show SQL, just so you can see what the syntax looks like. And then I'm going to click on Apply. So step number 1 is done. We have added our database containers. However, we know that every single container needs to have an expression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on my container, and I'm going to click on, the very first thing that I should do is click on Check Test. So normally, if I've added a SQL statement, for example, I want to make sure that the parser can in fact successfully parse the statement. So again, after you add your statement, at that point in time, there is no check that is done. But what you want to do is you want to, after you've created the statement, again, right-click on the container and then select Check Test. If the parser finds an issue with the statement, an error message is going to be returned. So add the expressions. I'm going to add the expressions from a table. So in this case, I might want to have my, I'll have both ARCust and AROBL here. And I'm going to add the appropriate fields to the table. IDCust, I want my customer name here as well. My vision just gets worse as the time goes on. So in this case, I might want to have some invoice information here. I'll have my invoice name. I'll have my invoice date, my invoice type. Okay, so amount INVCHC is what I want. That's good enough here for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on OK. And I'm going to quickly rename my fields here. Okay, so just when we're creating these containers, just as an FYI, if you needed to be able to, we're planning on adding or manipulating the data within Microsoft Excel. Let's say that you wanted to concatenate any of these fields, or if you wanted to add brand new fields using a SQL expression. It is much faster to do it here rather than in Microsoft Excel. If you have a formula that you want to use, it's again much faster for you to define whatever it is that you want to define at this level, rather than doing it in Microsoft Excel. So again, if I wanted to add an expression, if I wanted to be able to perform a mathematical operation on an amount, again, it's faster for me to do it right now than using Microsoft Excel. Now, the thing that you should remember, though, is that if you're using numbers, let's say it's going to be salesperson's commission numbers, for example, if you're creating a formula that's going to calculate on that, it's we recommend doing that in Microsoft Excel rather than doing it here. If you were to create a formula here at the container level, while it might be faster to create, you won't really have an audit, so to speak, in Microsoft Excel. So once the numbers get into Microsoft Excel, the person that's going to be looking at the numbers in Microsoft Excel are going to believe that the numbers are in fact coming from Backpack. So that's something to keep in mind here. Okay, so I've created my container and I've created my expression. At this point in time, what can I do? Well, at this point in time, what I'm ready to do is I'm now ready to use my report manager to create my report. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a couple of reports here, just so I can show you the example on drill down here as well. After I've created and notice here again, after I've created my container, after I've created my expression, what's going to happen here is that I can see that everything that you do within ACPAC Intelligence is assigned an ID. And again, it's a random number there. I'm now ready to go into my connector component, into my report manager component. So again, under the report manager component, what I'm going to do, let me start at first. Here's the report manager component. Again, as you can see, it looks very, very similar to the connector component. It's very, very easy to use. It's not that complicated. What do I see in the report manager? Well, on the left-hand pane, I basically see the design, if you will, of how my reports are structured. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by creating a brand new folder. Create a folder. Again, I'm going to right-click on Home. I'm going to select Add Folder. And I'm going to type a name for this folder. And it's called AA Customer Reports. The AA just so it appears at the top and I can see it better. When the home is selected, note the properties that I have here on my right-hand pane. Okay, so I have a folder called Customer Reports, but currently there are no reports that exist within that folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new report. I'm going to right-click on my Reports folder in which I want to create a report. And I'm going to click Add Report. Again, I'm going to create a couple of different reports here. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a standard report. I'm going to talk about union reports later on. But for now, I'm going to click on the standard report, and I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to have to specify a name for the report, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this again Customer List. Now, when I create my report, I do have to reference an existing container. Now, I have a container called Customers. Well, I have a lot of, maybe I should have called it vendors in this case. But anyways, we're doing Customers. And again, I can see what the parent connection is here. I did create a connection called Server 1. So I'm going to highlight my container, and I'm going to Customers container, and I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to select all of these. I wish to add all of these to my customer list. Actually, no, I'm just going to have my customer ID. I'll just have two of them. I'll just have my customer ID and my customer name. Did I forget to add the customer name? I forgot to add the customer name. Okay. If I forgot to add the customer name, no problem. You'll notice that what I like to do when I'm creating my reports, I have both my connector and my report manager window open. Just so, in the fact that I forget to do things like add a database field, I can easily go back to my container and I can quickly add my customer name. So the AR cus, and I am going to add a name cust to this list here. After you click on OK, you might want to wait a couple of seconds just so that when you try to add the report again, it can in fact see whatever it is that you've modified. If you can go in there too fast, I find that sometimes it doesn't see the information that was added in the connector until you wait a few seconds. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right-click on Customer Reports here again. I'm going to select Add Report. I'm going to create a standard report. And this is going to be my customer list. I'm going to select the appropriate container. And I'm going to have my customer ID and my customer name and my customer list. And then I'm going to click on OK. Okay, so at this point in time, I have enough information to create my report. In this case, there are two database fields that are going to the report. And let's actually have a closer look at what happens when this report is created. So again, to run my report, I'm going to right-click on my customer list. I'm going to select Run. The report is run. There's information being displayed down here. And I can see what SAI is doing by looking at this tab here. And this information is now spewed out onto my report. This is a customer list. Why is this customer list looking like this? Well, this customer list is looking like this because of a couple of reasons. First of all, the ID cust is linked to my AR. The AR cust is linked to my AROBL table. And due to the join type, it's basically pulling a record out of my customer table where there exists a record in my AROBL table. So I can see easily here that there are 13 open documents for Bargain Mart Diego. One of the things that I want to clarify here as to what we were doing yesterday, when a report is generated in Microsoft Excel, what the SAI product is going to do is that it actually creates the named ranges. We briefly talked about that yesterday, and I want to clarify this here. In this case, there are two fields that are being pulled from my database onto this report. So what ACPAC Intelligence is going to do is that it actually is going to create 4 different names in my name ranges. For each column, it is going to create a name range. So I'm going to have a name range called Customer ID. I'm also going to have a name range called Customer Name. In addition, what's going to happen is that it is also going to create a name range for my raw data. So what is my raw data? Well, this is my raw data that's occupying columns A1, in this case to B176. So if I press Control-Shift-Star, this is going to be the raw data. As a matter of fact, as you can see, when I press Control-Shift-Star, what that does is that it selects the current block of data. This is my name range here for my raw data. If I select column B, this is my customer name. Again, the name of the name range is simply equal to my header. Customer ID, the same sort of a thing. This is my customer ID. If I was to select both A and B, this is the other name range. It's raw data calls. So if I click on my list of name ranges, I can see that there are 4 name ranges that are created. And that's really good information to know here as well. Now, a question was asked yesterday. One of the things that I did yesterday, again, we know that we don't want to, generally speaking, we don't want to make changes in the leftmost pad. Why? Well, every time I generate the report, those changes are going to be overwritten. If you have formatting here, that might not necessarily be overwritten, but all of the data is going to get overwritten. And what we were trying to do yesterday is we were trying to post the current block of data. For example, in this case, columns A1 through B176 in a different sheet.
Ian?
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. I have a quick question. You don't have to answer it right now, but I'm confused on that because when you look at the financial statements, like the D you were just in, it's the second tab over that's pulling in all the detailed transactions, not the first tab where all the categories are. I'm confused, and is it because it was named Sheet 1 originally and it got moved and it still knows where it is? Or
I believe that's what's going on there.
So if you can move Sheet 1 over and rename it, it internally knows that was the first sheet?
Well, yeah. So if I was to move that data over here, No problem. So what's going to happen if I was to save this as a template and rerun the report? This data is still going to be here.
Okay, great. That makes sense to me. So that you could essentially put stuff farther over. You just need to initially create it on the left and then move it and rename it.
Well, moving it is not a good idea, because if I move it like this, and let's say I was to save a template, what's going to happen in this case? Well, what's going to happen is that this sheet 2 is going to be overwritten with data, and sheet 3 is going to hold the parameters on it.
Well, because if you go back and look at and like I said, you don't have to do it right now, but if you go back and look at that financial statement D for the detail that you were just looking at,
Yeah.
detail's coming into the second tab, not the first tab.
Okay. Maybe that's something that I think I know the answer, but maybe that's something that we can address in the advanced class.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
But again, it's just right now very, very important to know that what gets overwritten, it's not necessarily sheet 1. It's the worksheet that exists on the leftmost tab. Once it's generated, moving it over here isn't going to help you very much, because, well, this is no longer, the data is not going to be current anymore once we refresh it. So yesterday what I did is I basically highlighted this data that existed here, and I copied it. And on sheet number 3, what I did is a paste special. And then I clicked on paste link. And all of this data is the same data that's being referenced on sheet 1. And the question is that this thing can grow, so how do I go about automatically having this block of data, how do I have this data block or this data list automatically selected? Well, basically, I'm going to answer that question now. What I can do, let me just erase these columns. What I can do, just because of the fact that we know that this block of data is a named range called raw data, it's easier for me to simply select my raw data here, and what I can do is I can copy it and then paste it into a different sheet. So I can apply all my formatting here, like I normally would do. Again, if I wanted to create a unique customer list based on the customer number in sheet 1, again, that's possible for me to do here as well. What I can do on sheet 3 is position my cursor accordingly here, say in column G. This is just a recap from yesterday. So what I can do is I can use my filter tool. I want to create an advanced filter. What's my list range? My list range here. Or actually what I should be doing is not use that as a list range, but I should be using, I'm sorry, I think I can reference my what is it called? Customer ID.
Just highlight the whole column there, Ian, in sheet 1.
Mm-hmm.
Highlight that whole column, and that would give you the range name there.
Yeah, customer ID.
Customer ID.
Hey, Jason. Okay, so again, list range here, customer ID. I'm going to copy this to position G1. So again, I can get my unique IDs here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a template. customer list. I'm going to save it as a template. I'm going to select book 1. This book 1, this is the book that's open right now. This message will appear. I'm going to say yes, that's okay. It's going to ask me what Excel file do I want to save it as. This can be important if you're creating reports for your client. Obviously, this can be important here as well. Just note the primary differences between Excel 97 and Excel 2007, and the number of rows or columns that you might have in your data sheet. Specify the template name, which is customer list. The template name by default is going to be equal to your report name. And again, those templates are stored in the BH data in a subdirectory in the BX data folder. Okay, so this report is now linked. Now, this is what we were trying to accomplish yesterday. What happens if I go and create a brand new customer? Is it automatically going to be referenced in that list? And the answer to that question is yes, it will. If I go back into ACPAC and select my AR, I'm going to create a brand new customer here. And I'm going to be customer number 1. So I created a brand new customer. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to rerun my report. When I rerun my customer report, where is it? I don't want to see my customer called Andrea. It should be here.
Ian, it's because you have an inner join and there's no transactions associated with it. If you'd done it, I think it would have.
That's a very good point. All right, you can quickly fix that. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go into my, rather than create a transaction for it, I'm simply going to go into my connector. And I'm going to change my join type. And let's try this now.
Ian, this is Andrea again. Sorry. And I'll tell you, my SQL is not great. Does it need to be a left join or a left outer join?
Left outer join.
And so when you change it to a left join, is that a left outer join, or does it actually? I actually don't know.
The ones that I'm familiar with are just.
I think
I'll send you a document, but primarily it's just what I use in Crystal are either inner joins or left outer joins.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, the join that I used doesn't seem to be working.
The third on that list.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a third join on that list. If you go back to where you did the join, the connector, yeah.
Is that it?
It should be left out.
And right, click on it so you get the join up again.
Let's try a full outer join. Let's see if that makes a difference.
One more?
It will work, but if the
customer doesn't have any open documents, it will be eliminated from the other table, from the master table.
And it's still not coming in.
You need to look at sheet 1, I think, don't you?
Oh, here we go. Yeah. Here's sheet 1. Why did it should appear here on sheet? Why didn't I? It's not appear. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
You know why it's not appearing here on sheet on this sheet here? This is actually a really good exercise here. So what I wanted to do is I wanted all of this information on sheet 1 to automatically appear here on sheet 3, but it's not appearing here. Why isn't it appearing here? What did I forget to do? Now, this is the problem. When I pasted this data, it was I just pasted values, right? And before, what I was doing is I was pasting a link. So let's go ahead and I don't want to have to do this every single time, right? The whole point of the template is that it's automatic. So what I'm going to do, again, in this case, is I am going to select my list, which is the raw data. I'm going to copy it. And in sheet 3, I'm going to paste the link. So when I click on paste special, I'm going to click on paste link here. I didn't do this before. I just pasted the values. But when I paste the link, what it does is that it pastes the current value of my raw data. So let's go ahead and save the template. Make sure that this works. So I'm going to go back to my report manager. I'm going to select my reporter link template. What's the next cell from the, okay, so I have, what do I have here? Customer list 2. You have to make sure that you have the right Excel book highlighted. Okay, so if I add a brand new customer, it should also now appear on sheet number 3. I'll close down that other workbook, and I'm going to go back into my report manager. And I'm going to rerun the report. Or actually, before I do that, I should add the customer first. So I'm going to add a quick customer here.
Why it would not come up?
Because he has customer table and open documents table. And
Okay, the customer's now been added,
They use a full.
and I
So it has to be
should be able
full.
to create my report here again.
not left out.
He has to change back the.
Hopefully, we'll be able to see the
One-to-one relation.
the customer that was just added to the list.
He forgot to change the join.
Exactly. The join should be
Left outer.
left outer.
Difference in the outer and the inner.
The inner.
So, where's the report that I just created?
You should not use it because they have it there for few applications, but we don't use it usually because the master table, if the code is not exist.
Now, did anybody see me delete the
So
report?
why it is master table?
So the master table should always be there. That drives
That's right,
what you get
that's
from the
right.
outer
Right
table.
here again.
And that's the outer drive.
Correct. The outer, not the inner. If you inner, how come it's a master?
Customers from server 1. I'm going to have a customer ID, customer name.
But the inner is a default.
No, the default is 1-to-1.
No, but when they create a join,
And the report template is gone.
it automatically
It's
says
equal.
inner.
Yeah, this is equal.
No problem. We'll do this again.
It's equal link.
Jason.
That's right, you know, auto.
We're in Sandbank here. Very strange.
Did you add them as a, did you add that customer as a number or a code?
It was number 2, I believe.
Number 2.
Customer is.
You are no longer muted.
Ian, it's Dennis. Try checking the join type.
The joint type is outer joint. And I know that because Andrea doesn't have any transactions listed. But I might obviously be wrong here because I don't see Jason in this in here either.
I thought you changed it to a
Oh,
full.
wait a minute. Oh, there's 2 here. Okay, so it'll be that same place down the list here then, I guess. So if I have a look at... Oh, here he is. Here he is here. I see what's going on. Okay, so he's in...
You are now muted.
Just one more time. I just want to do this just so we know that this works. How do I get all of this information? In sheet number 3. Raw data. We copy. And here we're going to paste special.
Ian, what I don't see that's going to work there is the, you know, that's a paste link. So those formulas are basically copied to sheet 3 down as many rows as you have right now.
Yep.
So that goes down to whatever that is, row
Uses
185.
whatever
If you add a new customer, how is it going to come onto 186 without like a macro there?
Yeah, because what should happen here is that it should... that link should still be... It should... I believe it should still remember this link. Let's go ahead and do it.
Okay.
This is my understanding from the training that I had anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so the book 1...
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you'd need a macro there to do that.
Okay.
The paste link is just going to automatically expand for whatever is there.
Worked.
Maybe they connect different database.
Remember, he hard-coded, well not hard-coded, he selected the specific table, he didn't say automatic. So hopefully the name he put in there in that link is
So
it's the same app.
This
It's
is
working.
also being used by other reports.
We work this artifact, but the connector connects to another database.
It's going to be the same table name because IPAC has the same.
A different database,
Yeah, different database.
So what?
different company. So he added a tool, not in this company.
No, he did.
Oh, I
It's
see.
there.
Yeah, it's
It's
the
there.
same
It is
because
It's the same.
But
he
the
add-
connector, I mean.
No,
Right.
the connector's in the same.
Connector creates the.
it should be same because
Really
he
the
add
component.
first
All right, so let's add a customer
customer
1001.
after customer two in the same open database right now.
But he's linking to the named range, and then every time he imports, the named range changes. So
This one.
Yeah, but then there is
I don't know if this
raw
one is
data.
the same
The
database
raw
as
data
that.
is defined from
They said it is.
something to
right,
let's say 10,000, right?
right.
So that from 1 to 10,000 is raw data. But
Mhm.
now when you add let's say 5 new customers, the list is going to expand.
Right.
But is raw data going to go to 1,000, 10,000?
Right.
Of course,
Customer
because
here.
it re-imports
Now let's try
and
rewriting that
creates the
report
named
in
range for 1 to
SAI.
10,005.
Right, okay.
And it's
So-
just the named range that he's referencing. It's with the link, so
Okay, let's see if it's working.
it may not work for him, but it'll work. I know it'll work.
Database. Sam.
Yeah, same database.
Is that this report keeps disappearing. There we go. ASL run. Do you remember how many columns we had, Jason?
107.
I think it was 185, 185 rows.
Mm-hmm.
85 rows.
Yeah.
Actually, the drawing.
Okay, it looks like yeah, we might need a macro for this.
The drawing.
So it doesn't pick the new one.
Okay, no problem. We can accomplish this using a macro.
Just goes from
It should automatically change it?
No,
Because you're
I always thought that it
re-importing.
automatically move that information to the appropriate sheet. So in this case, the appropriate procedure then would be to create a macro that basically just selecting the link and then pasting that information into sheet number 3.
Yeah, it is there.
And that macro can be run after the report has been generated.
It's there, tell him.
No, he saw it.
He saw it, it's just he's saying the named
The
range is
customer
still
list, I
one
just wanted to
shot.
answer Andrea's other question. She said you had problems getting the drill down to work.
Once I change it to outer.
I think I know what I did wrong, and that is that I created
So
two
you have to
reports
choose
for
outer.
I have
the report that I was going to
drawn
link.
and I can see it.
I just did
I'm
it
gonna
straight
save
out of the
this
customer
one.
file, not the transaction file, and I think it's confusing it because it
save
needs,
this
the way you did it, you've got the customer list also linked to the transaction file, so there's a one-to-one relationship. I didn't have a one-to-one relationship, I just
Sorry?
have the customers, so there's like 26 of them. And then you can see the transaction file, you've got 185 transactions. I also use SAME.
Full outer means from any direction or what?
So the link, I'm curious to see though, I really want to see what you do with the link now, because I'm assuming you're going to link from sheet 3, and I want to see how it works, but I think I know what I did wrong.
Okay, so basically what I can do is I can create a brand new report. So I should be able to link it out to that same report, to that same container. So if I click on my report manager here and create a brand new report. So basically what happens is that when I create this link, it's actually looking to the other report to get that information. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to see my customer transactions. I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to click on server 1 here. I'm going to click on customer ID. I'll have the document number. I'll have all of the other information. So this report that I'm creating here, this has got, it's going to have a unique ID. So if I click on the customer transactions file, I can see that the report ID is 122. To make sure that this report works, so I can see that the file exists here, and in fact it appears to work. Now the way that the drill down works is that a parameter will get passed back from the report that I'm drilling down on to this current report here. So what I need to do is I have to set up a parameter. I'll go back to my report manager.
Are you adding the parameter to the report you're linking from or linking to?
Linking to.
Okay, thanks.
Because what happens, right, is that the report that you're drilling down on, it's going to ask, you have to define a parameter which it sends back to the lookup. So on under customer transactions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define a parameter. And in this case, what the parameter that I want to use is going to be my customer ID. And this is going to be a blank parameter. So initially it's going to be equal to. I'm not going to specify a value in this field here. Now in my customer list, here's my customer list here. What I can do to make this drill down work is that wherever I position my cursor, I select add-ins, report tools, and then drill down. The report ID code again is the report that I'm going to be drilling down to. When I click on OK, we can see that the value that it's going to pass back to report number 122 is this value here, 1200. So when I click on execute, what it does is that it looks at the lookup report. The lookup report is now running, and it's passing that parameter. In this case, that parameter value is 1200, and it wants to view all transactions on the list with the customer ID equals 122. Well, 1200, I'm sorry. And I can see it here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That does make sense. And it actually...
And I believe I should be able to do that in disparate data as well, as opposed to related data here.
I think you're right. I think I was missing the parameter was what my problem was.
Okay, yeah, you definitely have to have a parameter in there.
Yeah, makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
See what he did there?
Okay.
That's
Does anybody else have any questions
what you were asking
on how
me
that
to
works?
Yeah, Ian, I just wanted to comment. You should be able to use it on disparate data because it's running a separate report. It's just basically a completely separate report that you're running here that has the drill down, right? The key is the parameter, Andrea. So that's exactly what you were probably missing.
Try it again, and if it doesn't work for whatever reason, give me a call. I'll walk you through it.
I will, and I think that is what I think you're right. I don't think it was disparate data. I think it was the parameter I was missing. So thank you so much.
Okay, you're very welcome. I think it's a good review for everyone as well. Okay, so again, we know how to create these reports. The creation of these reports here are very, very simple. What I want to do is I want to quickly talk about the exporting and the importing of the reports here. So what we've done here on my end is I've created a couple of custom reports. Now, what you're going to be doing on client side is that you're probably going to be building some of these reports, and what you obviously want to do is you want to be able to send it to your customer such that you can use it. Now, when you export reports, the exporting of reports is done from within the report manager. However, the import of the report is done from within the connector. And your clients are not going to have a connector, so they won't be able to import reports that you use. Okay, so how then, or what is the appropriate procedure to be able to import or export reports? Okay, so again, in this case, I've created a report called the customer list. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys a copy of this customer list, and what I want you to do is I want you to actually import it into your own Sage Pack Intelligence to see if it works. So again, within my report manager, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the report that I wish to export. I'm going to select customer list in this case, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on tools, and under tools there is a menu option here called export report. I don't believe that existed. If I right click here, yeah, if I right clicked on that, I could export the report here as well. I'm going to click on export report. Please select the Metabase version that you would like the export file to be compatible with. I actually should have talked about the version here yesterday. What you want to do is you want to, on the report manager, what you want to do is click on help and then select about. And I can see what the Metabase version is. The Metabase version that you use, it doesn't want to be any newer than what your client has. So what you want to do prior to exporting that report out is give the client a call and basically have them fire up the report manager. A connector should work as well. Have them click on help about and determine what Metabase version their SAI is, and make sure that the version that you export is not newer than what they have on their own system. Okay, so let's go back to exporting again. So I'm going to click on export report, and I'm going to click on 6.8.4, which is the default, and I'm going to click on OK. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to be asked exactly where do I want this report to be exported to. So I'm going to state that I want this report to be on my desktop. I'm going to send you a copy, and I'm going to click on Save. Okay, so my export has in fact succeeded, and what it does is that it puts a copy of that customer list right over here. Now, I've exported my report. So when I exported my report, what happens is that this report looked at specific data that resided in the connector component. So specifically basically what happened is that this report was looking at a connector component called, under server 1, there was a connection here called server 1. I was looking at a specific connection called customers. And that container has specific expressions. So what happens when that report is exported, the appropriate connection information is also exported along with that report. So when you go to import that report on client site, what it actually does is that it's going to ask you under which connection do you want to put the container and its associated expressions. So that's automatically imported once you import that report. What I want to do is I'm going to delete my report, and I'm going to show you how that works. So again, under my report manager, I have to do the report manager first. I can't just delete my customer's report. How do I know that? Well, I know that, but if I right-click on customers and then select show dependencies, I can see all reports that currently use this container. So what I want to do is I want to nuke this report from the system. So I'm going to go into my report manager. I'm going to double click on my customer reports, and I am going to nuke this report. Template. I'll delete the template here again. And I didn't create any of the reports that use that. So what I should be able to do is go to my connected component. Unexpected error. I want to refresh this. So a customer reports, so I can delete. Oh. I think they're still showing up here. It's my report manager shouldn't be showing up here anymore. I finally deleted them. Yeah, I did delete them. They were just showing up, so I refreshed it. This was open, and it didn't close it. So that's why I was getting that message. Let's go into my report manager. Or my connector, sorry. Got too many report managers open, so I'm going to nuke one of these report managers. And I'll go into my connector. This connection, so this container was customers. This is what I was using. So I can delete my container. As a matter of fact, if I want, I can delete the connection. 120. Customer list. Okay, let me go back to my report manager. I must have added it by here by accident, so I'm going to delete it here as well. All right. Now I should be able to delete this container. Okay, so I've deleted the container. Remember that I've exported my report. When I exported my report, all information that existed in my connector, namely the container and all its related expressions, should have been exported along with the report. Now, when I import the report, when you import reports, reports are imported using the connector. They are not imported using the report manager. To import the report, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select Tools, and there should be an option here called Import Report. Okay, so I'm going to import the appropriate report. In this case, that report that I'm trying to import is called Customer List. I'm going to select my customer list from the window, and I'm going to click on Open. So note what happens here. I'm asked to, first of all, name the report. I can see all other metadata that's listed here. I'm asked to specify a report destination. So when I click on my drop-down box, it's going to ask me where exactly should this folder, what folder should this report be kept in? Well, it could be any of these existing folders, or I can create a brand new folder by clicking on new. What I want to do is I'm going to begin by selecting customer reports. That's where I was before. And then I'm going to select import. So the import's now succeeded. I go to my report manager. And then have a look at my customer reports. Here's my customer list. Under source container, there's something here called customers. I did create a new container called customers. Let's open up a new instance of the connector. So again, the appropriate container has now been created. So there's, again, a container called customers here. And you'll notice that, again, all relevant expressions have now been created along with that container. So that's the appropriate process of importing and exporting a report. Does anybody have any? Yeah?
Oh, sorry. Yes, if you create one on, like I have Pervasive on my machine, if I create one in Pervasive, can I export it and import it into a client that's using SQL or vice versa?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
I believe there was issues with that. Let me just make a note of that, but it wasn't easy to do. I can't remember what the exact resolution was. Jason, from training, do you recall what the issue was? If you have a Pervasive database, there was a SQL, a different client had SQL. Do you recall what the issues were?
No, I actually don't.
Okay, no problem. What I'm going to do is I'll ping the appropriate folks, and I will make sure that I get an answer back to you by the end of tomorrow.
Actually, and vice versa, either direction, or if I...
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, thanks.
Yes,
That's no problem. Any other questions regarding this?
What about the credentials or the container, the password, whatever?
Okay.
Be the start sequence.
Okay, so while we're here, let's have, before we start looking at the other functions, let's have a look at some of the other things that we can do with the report manager. Excuse me, going back to my report manager, let me just shut all of these instances of my connector report manager down. So we do have a report that we created called the customer list. Nothing special with that report, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to expand my report manager, and I'm going to click on Show Advanced. Now, Andrea, I believe it was you yesterday. You were asking, well, is it possible for you to actually lock down a certain report? And I showed you that when I went to my lookup, it was possible for me to tinker around and play with the data. It is possible for you to actually lock the report such that nothing can happen. So if I click on, there's a button here under my customer list under Advanced. What I can do is, there's something here called Protect the Output Book. So if I click on Protect the Output Book and then run the report, so I hit the Apply button. So this message is coming out. It's asking me if I want to save the changes. I'm going to say yes, I do want to save the changes.
Ali, you see there's a thing there, checkbox, show distinct rows.
Show distinct row.
So once this report is run,
Oh yes.
that option was selected.
Report we just looked
It's
at,
not
we can
possible for
check
you
that.
to
Would it just show
modify
one per customer?
Oh,
the worksheet.
okay. So what we have.
That's one way that you
Cover the
can
next,
prevent people
thing
from
of
manipulating the data that resides in the sheet. However, it is very, very important that to know if these reports are locked, if you want to be able to do things like drill down, you might not necessarily be able to do that. So again, going back to some of the reports that I had run before, for example, my financial reports D, if I was to protect the output book in this case, I believe I'm going to lose my drill down functionality in this case. Again, this is the same. This is the same report that I generated earlier using the same template. It's not possible for me to modify the data that resides on this worksheet. If I click on add-ins, if I try to drill down to a specific account, we change the month here. It doesn't really matter. You'll notice that when I try to do things like that, it's going to say that it's detected that I can't actually make the appropriate change in this case. So that's just something to be wary of. There are other really cool things that you can do as well. I want to protect the output book. Report lock. If you don't want anybody to actually modify this report within SAI, what I can do is I can actually lock the report. So if I put a check mark under report locked, it basically will do the same. When I click on apply, first of all, it's going to ask me for an unlocked password. It'll prevent anyone from unlocking or modifying the report. So the password is ACPAC. So again, this report is now locked. I can no longer modify this report. So again, when you install ACPAC Intelligence, and you have a look at the existing reports that come with the system, you'll notice again that it's not possible for you to modify this report because it's locked. You don't want end users inadvertently wrecking the existing report. So that's what you can do with the report that you have up here. And obviously, to unlock the report, I'm going to right-click. I'm going to select unlock, and I'm going to specify the unlock password. I don't know what that key code is to unlock these reports here. All right. One of the things that you can do with respect to the report as well, if you want to be able to automatically launch this report outside of SAI, has everybody done that before? I wanted to run this financial report outside of SAI or outside of ACPAC. But what do I have to do? Is there anything that I can do here? If I right-click on the appropriate report, there is a function here, a menu item called Create Report Run Shortcut File. So if I want the financial report to be, that's probably going to take too long to generate, let's use my customer list. If I right-click and select Create Report Run Shortcut File PR32, what it's going to do is that it actually creates a shortcut, not a shortcut, but an actual file somewhere, such that this report can automatically launch. So in this case, it's the customer file here, customerlist.al. If I double-click on this file, sorry, it's this one here, my customer list. If I double-click on that file, what automatically happens is that this report is now going to be launched. Obviously, you have to have the appropriate SAI components installed on the system that you're doing this from.
That's pretty slick.
That's nice.
Well, to have this, this is one way that you can get the report to run from within ACPAC. You can simply create a brand new program shortcut to the ACPAC desktop, to this file here.
Is this what you would do if you had like a company president that really didn't get into ACPAC but wanted flash information every morning, and then you would set it to run this report Windows every time you launched the machine?
That would work, absolutely, yes. You can schedule the report as well. What you can do, there's other options that you can do from within the report manager. So from within the report manager, what I can do is I can actually, if I click on, I generate the output file. What I can actually do is I can actually have the Excel document actually get created when the report is run, and the actual Excel document would be saved to a file somewhere. Does this sound like exciting stuff?
Yeah.
Actually, it is. And could you also then have this?
You can have that emailed as well, yes. Via, so for example, there's something called Run Add-ins. When I click on the Run Add-ins, I don't have an SMTP client on this machine. There's an Alchemist add-in here. So under Alchemist add-in, there's a select add-in library module. And I believe there is an emailing function here.
Okay.
So you set up the appropriate components here, and you can actually set it up such that the report is automatically emailed with the Excel attachment attached to it.
Do you need like Exchange server for that, or can you do it if you just have like Outlook installed?
If you have, you don't have to have Exchange server. You just need some sort of an SMTP client,
Okay.
And that should work.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. Randy, have you tried that out before, or Jason, have you set up any clients that use this feature?
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it should work. I haven't tried that myself, at least not yet. All right. So again, those are some of the other functions that you can do within the report manager. Okay. Let's talk about I can't talk. Let's talk about report consolidation. So I'll show you a few different ways that you can consolidate report information. Of course, we have built-in consolidation reports. If I go back into my ACPAC and select my SAI, actually I can just go to my report manager. Immediately shut down. Let's go back to my report. Wrong one. Oh, this would work. This would work as well. So I have my report viewer. I have my all of the appropriate reports here, and there should be a consolidation report here somewhere. No, a little bit blind. So let's go back to the report manager. Let's just run it this way. And I know that it exists here. So in this case, if you want to be able to consolidate information into a single Excel spreadsheet, let's say SAM Inc. and SAM Limited, it is possible for you to do using a couple of reports. There's actually a couple of reports. The first one is Consolidated Financials S, and the other one here is Consolidated Financials SB. If you want to be able to look at the Consolidated Financials S report, this report here comes with two sub-reports. You'll notice that under multi-company consolidation, there's a report here called Act Group Code, which is a sub-report of the Consolidated Financials S, and you also have the Trial Balance sub. You'll notice that in the description for these two sub-reports, this report should actually be hidden. It's stating specifically that these are sub-reports used by the Consolidated Financials S Union report. So this is a union report. I know that this Consolidated Financials S is a union report because it has a green icon. And the union sub-reports, again, are the Act Group Code and the Trial Balance sub. If I wanted to be able to run the Consolidated Financials S report, what I need to do is I have to specify the target companies, target ACPAC companies in both of my union sub-reports. Okay, so if I click on the first union sub-report, which again is Act Group Code 3-0, that's what it's called, and you'll notice that there is a little red message above this particular field, the database consolidation list. When I click on the ellipsis here that's beside this field, a list of icons, a list of companies are going to appear here. These are ACPAC companies. For the ACPAC company to appear on this list, you have to ensure that the ACPAC Intelligence icon, or sorry, the ACPAC Intelligence module has been activated in these modules. So in this case, what databases do I wish to consolidate? I can do these two, these three. I can do all three if I want. So I'm going to make sure that I have check marks in both of those boxes, and I do. And the same is true with the trial balance sub here. But again, what I'm going to do where it says database consolidation list, I'm going to make sure that I have both of SAM Inc. and SAM Limited. Basically, everything I want to consolidate listed here. Okay, so once they're both in that list, what you can do is you can then run my consolidated financials report. Notice that this isn't a copy. It's actually possible for me to run this report without having to make a copy of it. I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to have to map the fields map the accounts like I normally do. I won't bother doing that here. Again, normally the very first thing that I'm going to do, you'll notice there's instructions here. I'm going to map my categories appropriately, and once the categories are mapped, what I can do, I didn't map my categories so I get this message, so that I can run the appropriate financial report that I wish to run. I'm not going to bother mapping it, so I'm not going to run the financials here. What I want to do is let's have a look at the consolidated financials SB. When I run the consolidated financials SB, there are no union subreports in this case. But I do have to specify which databases I wish to consolidate. So again, when I click on consolidated financials SB, when I have a look at my database consolidation list, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the ellipsis. And again, I can specify the appropriate database that I wish to consolidate. I'll just use SAM Inc. and SAM Limited, and I'm going to click on OK. And again, the report manager is talking to the connector, which is in turn pulling the appropriate data out of the database. So then again, I can run the appropriate financial report. And please do try this if you haven't tried it yet. Have a look at each report. If you're demoing this at client site, as you can see, what I've shown here, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but it's once you get used to use the UI, it's not that difficult tool to use.
Hey, Ian?
Yes, go ahead.
On my machine, I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to see where you see the database consolidation list, where you see back on the report manager, the main screen.
Okay, so which one are you looking at? So I'll have a look at it in just a moment.
Okay.
Explain this, and then I'll come back. Okay, so again, as you can see here, for each of the accounts here are mapped. But each account here, again, it specifies specifically the appropriate database ID. So if you wanted to make any changes to this with respect to the consolidated, in terms of what is showing up, you might actually have to make manual changes. Okay, so I'm sorry, Andrea, question?
Oh.
You're saying that you're not seeing something with, when you're trying to generate one of your reports? Andrea?
It's actually when you're at this level right here.
Yes.
The red is the database consolidation list over on the right, and right underneath
Yes.
MQ and SAM Ltd. In mine, that's showing up there.
Okay, so you have to click on the ellipsis here.
And I did do that, and the only thing I'm seeing is SAM Inc. I don't see the other companies as an option. And I did just go in and activate the SAA product in the SAM Ltd.
Do you have, you obviously have a connector license as well, right? So.
I do.
Okay. So you can verify that SAM Ltd is active.
Yeah,
SAI is active within SAM Ltd.
Well, you know, I didn't. When I went in to do the activation, it didn't ask me. It just asked me to activate the Sage ACPAC Intelligence. It didn't ask me to activate. I'll get back to the SAM Ltd.
Yeah, there shouldn't be anything else that you have to activate other than Sage ACPAC Intelligence.
Yeah, and it's there. I just went over to SAM Ltd. and I can get into. I'll just get into the connector real quick. Oh,
okay, so basically what you might have to do is sometimes if you shut down the report manager and the connector and then go back in, it should get populated. The logic here is to look for
You are no longer muted.
existing ACPAC companies that do have the module activated. Okay. Let me know if it's not there.
I got it. It's showing up now, so I'm good.
All right.
Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, so again, as I stated before, sometimes what happens is that before the report manager can see some information, maybe a few seconds goes by. It's usually pretty quick, but if it doesn't happen right away, I might suggest just shutting the appropriate connector report manager UIs down and then getting back into them.
Ian, it's Dennis.
Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
This may be not an appropriate question at this point, but one of the problems we have when doing consolidations, and it's a problem in Insight too, I guess, is when you have disparate year ends. Is there any nice, easy way to handle that in this system?
I haven't given it too much thought myself, to be honest with you. Jason or Randy, can you speak to that issue?
I'm sorry, what was the question again? The disparate year-end?
So basically what's happening is that the year-end is happening on different dates.
Yeah.
And can you think of any good logic off the top of your head in Microsoft Excel that would make the reporting process be easier if the year-end had different dates with using SAI?
The only thing I can think of right now is that if you report different company data on different worksheets, you would then use Excel to map the different periods together to create a consolidated report. That's the only thing I can think of. There is no offset number of periods that you can define to sort of get things consistent. You'd have to. This is just my initial thought right now. It would probably be easiest to get each company's information on separate worksheets, and then using a consolidated worksheet to put everything together. That's where you would define what period you're consolidating together.
So you wouldn't be using the consolidations like we're doing here, then?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Yeah. That's the only thing I would think of. Well, you could, but then you'd have to create separate worksheets, separate reports that would become union reports, right?
Yeah.
So the pick list would be a criteria that you selected on each of the individual sub-reports as part of this overall union report. I'm just thinking it would be very, very difficult. It would be very difficult to do it using the actual consolidation that Ian's just shown, if you've got different periods that you're reporting.
Okay, thanks.
Is that a fair enough answer there?
Well, it's the answer for now, and we'll have to find a way somehow to do it, I guess, because there are companies obviously that have that problem, and I guess the way I would think to do it would maybe be do it with SQL statements, the way you do in Insight, to map the periods back and forth when you're doing your connector.
Yeah, and that would still be fair to say as well. In this case, The only issue that you might have is based on that pick list, but we'd have to take this conversation offline though, Dennis. So.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Randy.
Yeah.
You are now muted.
Anything to add to that?
They
Okay.
I'm surprised they were up.
Okay,
there
so
for that,
reporting off of disparate data sets. Probably let's talk about that now. So let's pretend we actually don't have. I want to be using ACPAC data sets in this case. But let's pretend that you want to be able to do things like report off of different data sources that contain different data. Is it possible for us to do within ACPAC Intelligence? And the answer to that is yes, it is. So again, ACPAC Intelligence can connect to pretty much almost any data sources you can see here. So I can actually, I can create a report whose connection is reporting off of one data source on one server, and I can also get that information to the same report by pointing that other report to a connection that exists on a different server. So again, if I have two connections, both pointing to different servers, I can get the report manager to query the data off of both connections, get that data, and pull it back to a single Excel spreadsheet. So how can I do that? Well, I'm going to basically try to simulate that here. Actually, I'm going to leave my server 1 here up, and I'm going to delete this connection. I'm not sure if there's any containers in here. All right, let's just, we have server 1 here. Server 1 is pointing specifically to a database called SAMING. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that there exists a database elsewhere, not related to ACPAC at all, called SAM Limited. But of course, it's going to be related to ACPAC. But what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to create a second connection in my connector, just to simulate that. What's the connection name going to be called? My connection name is going to be called Server 2. It's going to point to the same server, but we can pretend that it's pointing somewhere else. W01-07, database name is SAM Limited. So there's server 2. I always want to check to make sure that I can connect with my server. And it doesn't take this long, so there's a problem. Come to think of it, I forgot to put in my instance name. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, in this case, I'm going to create what's called a union report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a report that queries the data for SAM Limited. It can be a customer list. And for server 2, I can create another report. It can be the same customer list or it can be something else. But I'm going to show you how I can get that data back into a single Excel spreadsheet. So let's try to find the instance, and it's not going to be able to find it, obviously. This might be a good time to take a, oh, here we go. Does anybody want to take a quick 5-minute break? I probably can
yeah, let's
use
do
some tea myself. Hey. Okay, so it's, my clock at the bottom here says 9:42. Let's start here at about 9:47. I'll see you in 5 minutes.
9:27. Yeah, that's a good time for me to
write a program.
To wake up.